Well, I love you, church family. I'm glad to be with you today, and I'm wondering, did you pray for your one this week? Did you pray for your one? I hope you'll keep praying every day for your one. We'll see what can come of that. All right, to start out with today, I want everyone to just pause for a moment. Just be silent. Just for 20 seconds. I want you to be silent, and I want you to just listen. Listen to even the faintest noise, whatever you can hear. So when I say go, start listening, be silent. Ready? Go. Okay. Now, on your bulletin or someplace, even in your mind, make a list. Write down everything that you heard. Air conditioner, paper rustling, somebody coughing or whispering. Now, here's the thing. You were most likely hearing most of those things you jotted down before I said go. But you weren't really hearing them. You weren't thinking about them because you were otherwise tuned in. And I think we miss a lot of things because we really aren't always listening for them. It depends. When you tune in on specific things, you ignore other things so as not to be distracted. And that's good, that's okay, but I think sometimes we're missing things. And I think sometimes all the noise of this world is so much that we don't hear what we really need to hear. Sometimes we don't hear people that we need to hear. I wonder, how long did it take you to realize when you were growing up that elemental P wasn't a word, but it's actual letters in the alphabet, elemental P, right? Or how about up on the housetop, reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus. Now I have to confess that when I was growing up, I heard it a little differently. I heard reindeer paws. And of course, reindeer don't have paws, and they don't paw. They have hooves. Well, this happens a lot when we listen to songs, pop songs. A lot of the songs you've been singing for a lot of years, you sing it with a lot of get up and go. You know, you're excited about it. You'll sing those songs, and then one day you realize you weren't singing the actual lyrics. You had it wrong. So one example, Creedence Clearwater Revival song, maybe some of you remember it. There's a bad moon on the rise. Remember that phrase? There's a bad moon on the right. But it turns out many people heard there's a bathroom on the right. You know? And they're just singing it out, you know, just going. And that phenomenon actually has a name, mondegreen. You ever hear of mondegreen? It's a misheard word or phrase that makes sense in your head, but is actually incorrect. Now, I have to say, it happens when preachers are preaching. It does. Someone thinks they heard one thing, and they might even get upset with me. But I actually said something else, and the recording proves it. Okay? But somehow we hear things that aren't exactly correct. Today's opportunity is listening. Listening. This month, we're focusing on 5 everyday ways to love and bless our neighbors. And each week, we are being challenged with a different daily rhythm of Jesus using the acrostic BLESS, B-L-E-S-S. And last Sunday, we learned the place to start blessing our neighbors is be in prayer. We've got to be in prayer. Begin with prayer, excuse me. Same difference. But today, the L stands for listen. We need to learn to listen. I can't undersell the importance of this relational gem for building friendship with your neighbors and coworkers. Start with prayer. But listening is one of the most important and powerful things you can do for your friend or your neighbor. The other rhythms that we've yet to talk about are more actively engaging with your neighbors, okay? But they're not more important. You cannot do the last 3 ways to bless effectively without praying first and listening. Listening is one of the least taught methods of discipling, but it is essential for building the relationship, in earning trust, discerning the best ways to bless your friends. Listening is one of the most respectful, loving gifts that you can give. We live in a world where hardly anyone is really listening. And so many people feel like nobody's listening to me, you know. No one understands them. They have no voice. People just don't care. But, you know, that is an opportunity. That's a great opportunity for us as followers of Jesus who are looking to bless others. The problem is there are several things that are hindering our listening. One of those things is technology, as you know. I mean, just look around at a restaurant, at a ball game, even here at church, around the family dinner table, everyone's on their device. You know, and no one is talking to each other, and everyone's trying to post something, and no one's really even listening to that. And people are starving for meaningful conversations. Technology has reduced people's communication skills. Emojis and text really don't communicate effectively. Many, especially among our younger people who've grown up with texting and devices all the time, they haven't learned how to listen. And certainly we don't know how to read nonverbal cues, eyes and body language and the tone of voice, gestures, facial expressions. We're missing out on this, and that's an important part of communication. Another hindrance to listening is self-focus. We tend to be focused on what's in our own hearts and minds, and we can actually appear to be listening when we're not. And we hear some of what people are saying to us, but we're really just waiting for our turn to talk. As a matter of fact, we are usually queuing up what we intend to say in response while the other person is still talking. I've done that. Have you done that? So let's once again follow Jesus. There are plenty of examples in his life of listening, but we're going to zoom in on Luke's Gospel, chapter 18, verses 35 through 42. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening, and they told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. And he called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. And when he came near, Jesus asked, what do you want me to do for you? And Lord, I want to see, he replied. And Jesus said to him, receive your sight. Your faith has healed you. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. And when all the people saw it, they also praised God. So first of all, like Jesus, listen for the cry for help. We've got to be paying attention to that. Be alert. Tune in your ears and your heart to the struggles of others. Now, a lot of times, behind a person's behavior is a need. So be on the lookout for people who need help, who need love, who need understanding. Now, sometimes people will just express that kind of thing very freely, but others will try to hide their struggle. Sometimes people are trying to tell you what's going on inside, but they just don't come out and say it. And we don't always hear what people are saying or what's really in their hearts. And so we have to train ourselves to be good listeners like Jesus. And when I say listen, I mean with more than just your ears. I mean, listen to all five senses, with all five senses. It's going to tell you something about the person you're engaging with. That day in Jericho, Jesus wasn't really looking for someone to heal. Jesus is just passing through, and Jericho was a bustling city. And so many people are on their way to Jerusalem for the Passover, and so this was kind of a last stop, so it was extra busy in this city. And maybe you want to picture Times Square on New Year's Eve. Well, I don't know if it was that crowded, but the streets were crowded. And in the middle of all that, there was a blind man crying out in all the noise, "Jesus, have mercy on me. Son of David." He's using messianic terminology. "Have mercy on me." And in all the commotion, Jesus heard that singular voice of need. And it reminds me of moms who are so tuned into the voices of her children. And in a crowd, they can pick out their kids' voices, right? They hear. People tried to shush the beggar. Like, don't bother the rabbi. He has no time for the likes of you. But in desperation, he cried out all the more. He persisted, and it worked. Jesus stopped all the entourage and asked that they bring the blind man to him. And after hearing that man a bit more, Jesus lovingly met his need. He gave him sight. And can you imagine that miraculous moment, that dream come true for that man, finally being able to see? Is there anything more obnoxious than a computer voice answering your call when you call customer service? Do you like that? And no matter how intelligent AI is, the computer really has no real concern for your well-being or the ability to discern what you really need. You just want to talk to a real person. Now, granted, sometimes the real person isn't much better than the computer, but anyway. And I think we often make the same kind of mistake. Rather than listening and understanding, we just, like a machine, jump right into fix-it mode. And especially guys do that. And the truth is, most people don't really want your expertise or your advice. They just want your support and your understanding. They want to be heard, known, valued, and loved. When people in our lives feel unheard, it ultimately means they're feeling unknown, and they're realizing they're unloved. So you can see the graphic. They're unheard, they're unknown, and they feel unloved. And that's why I say one of the kindest, most respectful things you can do is listen. It's opportunistic. When you're discipling, it's not just telling the gospel or whatever message you're trying to convey. We must first hear where the person is coming from. We have to show respect for and interest in what they feel, what they believe, what they're experiencing. And so by stopping to listen to the blind man, Jesus showed great value to him. He wasn't just a castaway. He was worth hearing and responding to. Jan and friends were relaxing in a hotel whirlpool, and two adolescent girls joined them in the tub. And so one of these teens, named Brittany, began passionately telling her friend about an upcoming Wiccan gathering she was planning to attend. And Jan says their alarms went up, but instead of countering her, we just decided to listen for a bit. And after listening for a few minutes, Jan commented, "Wow, you really sound excited about this." And that little bit of encouragement was all that girl needed to launch into a 5-minute explanation of why she was so attracted to neo-pagan rituals. The bottom line was that she had a really traumatic time in high school, and the Wiccas accepted her. She said, I've gone through so much just trying to make it through high school that I'll probably be in therapy the rest of my life. Sounds like a little over dramatic, but that's how she's feeling. That's how she's feeling. So Jan tried to reflect what she was saying. It's hard for you to even imagine a future where you'd be free from all the pain you've gone through in high school. And with tears and with complete sincerity, this girl said, sometimes I wish I could be born all over again. I'd really like to start over from scratch. And Jan asked if she really did want to be born again. Yes, I really would, she said. Now, just by hearing, just by listening for her cry for help, it opens doors. It opens doors. Listen for pain. Listen for needs. Listen for beliefs and values and background and feelings and opinions and what moves that person. Listen and learn so you can understand. Listening is loving. Now, also like Jesus, ask good questions in order to understand. Good questions can help us get to the real source of someone's thinking and feelings, their beliefs and values and motives and so on. We can learn so much if we'll just not do all the time, but we'll just ask questions. People love it when you show interest in him, when you ask questions about them, you know. They love that. I ran into a guy that I hadn't seen in several years, and he has some issues, and at one point he got mad at me and some other church members here, and so he was not willing to work any of that out, and so I hadn't seen him in quite some time. But here's what I want you to see. When I ran into him again, he was cold and icy towards me, but I just kept asking questions about him and his life, his well-being, and showing interest in him. And it was like flipping a switch. Just by a few questions, suddenly he warmed up, and we had a very nice conversation, although I didn't hardly do any talking. He just poured it out. A few good questions broke through the ice, and he was willing to share. We need to learn to listen and look for the hurts. Now, we don't want to just blow through this account of the blind man with Jesus. You know, I've heard this before. Blind man can't see. He calls out to Jesus. Jesus heals him. I got it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Not too fast here. I want you to notice that Jesus asked a question of this guy. A simple question to which it seemed like an obvious answer. You know, what do you want me to do for you? Duh, I want to see, right? I mean, it seems like an obvious thing. But this question was powerful. It served a lot of purposes for both Jesus and for the blind man. And perhaps really even for the crowd as well as they were observing. This question shows concern and care on the part of Jesus. I'm listening to you. People need to know we're paying attention to them, that we really want to know what's in their life, what's in their heart. Secondly, this question shows Jesus didn't just assume he knew what this man wanted. And we don't want to assume anything with people. It may seem obvious, but we can't assume. We need to get to the real heart of the matter. This question also prompts the person to verbalize what they need. And that's really important. Sometimes people don't know what they need. They just know they hurt, and they want someone to know that and feel with them. Other times, they haven't made an effort to really clarify the need in their own mind and what they're really after. And so the question requires that of them. And I use this question, what do you want me to do for you? It's important because it can reveal expectations and trust. Sometimes people will respond, Dan, I don't know, but could you at least pray with me? Absolutely, I'll do that, you know. But sometimes I find people want me to do things for them that I cannot do, like validate or endorse their lifestyle or decision. Or I can't fix their marriage, and I can't make their pain go away, and I can't make a decision for them. I can't heal their depression or addiction or disease. But I can point them to Jesus and His Word to address all these issues. You know, Jesus asked 307 questions in the gospel. He asked over 300 questions, and He did more listening than answering. Jesus asked questions when He was casting out that legion of demons from that wild man He met in the cemetery. Jesus peppered the man who had brought his son to Jesus and the disciples to cast out this tormenting demon. And the disciples couldn't do it, and Jesus shows up and He said, "What are you arguing about?" And then they tell him, "How long shall I put up with you, you unbelieving generation? And how long has he been like this?" And the guy said, well, he explained it to him, and he said, "We're just hoping you could help." If I can help. And so Jesus is asking good questions. One of the 10 lepers came back to thank Jesus for healing him, and Jesus asked, "We're not all 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God?" Remember that woman who came up and touched the robe of His garment when He's in a big crowd and everybody's crowding around Him, bumping into Him all the time? And what did He say? "Who touched me?" That was an important question for that woman to come to grips with. And so He calmed the storm with His disciples. And He said, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" When the wine ran out at the wedding, His mother came and wanted Him to do something. She didn't say what, but she wanted Him to do something. And Jesus asked, "Why do you involve me?" Good question. And he asked this important question of His disciples: "Who do you say that I am?" There could be a more important question. We need to learn the power of asking questions and then listening. It'll go a long way to understanding and building relationships and blessing people. So I put a list in your bulletin for you. Try asking some of these questions when you really want to hear and listen. Can you tell me more about what you just said? How do you feel about this situation? Can you clarify what you mean by that? How can I help you with this? I love this one. What's your story? I love to ask people, tell me your story, How did you come to believe that? Why do you believe that? Can you share what's bothering you? How can I pray for you today? That's a great question. That gets you connected. So what's next? What are you going to do? Who's been the biggest influence in your life, and what did they teach you? So anyway, asking questions opens doors. We need to be like Jesus. And then we also need to show love and respect by giving focused attention. Jesus stopped what He was doing, and He gave that blind man focused attention and asking him these probing questions and letting that man know that he was heard. He wanted that blind man to know Jesus was really listening to him. He heard and He cared. He was focused. Scan the accounts of Jesus' life and ministry in the Gospels, and you can see all the focused attention that He gave to people. He paused and, in essence, pulled up a chair, looked people in the eye, and simply listened. And when I'm subbing at the Christian school, and I have to give directions to the whole class all at once, and so I often will tell the students, "Okay, stop whatever you're doing, and look me in the eye so that I know that you're listening." And then I wait until all eyes are up, and it takes them a moment. But then finally everybody gets it, and they're all looking at me, and I give the instruction. When my kids were growing up, at times, I hope not too often, but they would come and ask me about something or to get permission to do something while I was studying, working on a sermon or something. And I think it must have been frustrating when I didn't stop, put everything down, look them in the eye, and listen. Sometimes I just kept doing what I was doing and kind of gave consent without really hearing or thinking through what they were asking. And boy, then I'd hear, "Dan, why did you let them do that?" Sometimes I'm watching a ball game And Brenda starts talking to me about something, and my eyes are like this. Screen, Brenda. Screen, Brenda. I'm back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she doesn't like that very much. She doesn't appreciate that. So I do better if I just turn it off and focus my attention on her, and she knows I'm listening. Put down your smartphone. Shut off Netflix. Turn off the ball. Slow down in all your busyness. I know you got a lot going, but stop and look your family in the eye. Look your friend in the eye and listen. When your friend or neighbor wants to talk to you, stop whatever you're doing. Stop the lawnmower and go talk to them. Get a cup of coffee. Sit down face to face. Have a conversation. This might be a huge door opening into his or her life that will lead to spiritual conversations, or if nothing else, it'll lead to better relationship, better friendship that can ultimately lead to spiritual conversations. So again, here's the graphic. When someone listens, they're being known and they know they're loved. When you're listening, they're being known and they know they're loved. Listen like Jesus. Be informed by listening to the words and the heart. Listen to the words and the heart. Jesus didn't just perceive the blind man's words, but he discerned his heart. He saw his desperation. He saw that, and he had compassion for him. He saw this man's faith. Yeah, I mean, he's addressing him as the Messiah. He saw his faith. He thought Jesus can do something for me, and Jesus sought to reward that faith. Learning to listen is a skill that goes deeper than just hearing the words. It's important to get the words accurately, but what's really behind those words? What is it that the person might not be telling you with words? What does this person want to convey but can't find the right way to say it? When you hear the heart, you gain so much more understanding and you connect with the person on a deeper level. And sometimes you just have to ask a question that pries open the heart. That, okay, now really tell me what's going on, you know? You ever go to the doctor and you're trying to express how you feel, but you sense that your doctor's not really listening? You know, they got a lot of patients to see that day, and they're just trying to check off. They examine a few things, you know, and they're trying to get to the next one and get you out the door, it feels like. In 1816, René Laennec, a French physician, was uncomfortable about placing his ear directly on a woman's chest to listen to her heart. So he invented a tool that doctors continue to use today. What? Stethoscope, yeah. And this guy, he was actually famous for saying, if you use this tool, don't stop listening to your patients. They will still tell you how to heal them. Doctors need to learn that, you know. Laennec didn't want doctors to use the stethoscope to listen to the heart and lungs, but failed to listen to what the patient is saying and feeling. We need to listen. Everyone has a story. Everyone. Everyone has concerns and struggles and challenges and experience and victories and beliefs. It's a huge gift to hear their heart. Stephen Covey, famed author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, "Seek first to understand before seeking to be understood." Many times we're so busy trying to get our point across that we don't hear what the other person is saying. Proverbs 18:13 cautions, it's stupid and embarrassing to give an answer before you listen. My friend was telling me of a guy in their church who talks incessantly. He just doesn't know when to stop. He drones on and on and on while people are trying to extricate themselves from the one-way conversation. Now, don't point. That's rude. Okay? Anyway, my friend decided that he was going to have a heart-to-heart with Joe. And he just thought it was cruel to let him go on doing this, you know, and alienating people. And in fact, in the Bible study groups, it was hard to participate in the conversation, in the discussion, because he dominated so much. And so my friend tried to just gently tell Joe to be more concise when he spoke and to give others a chance to say something. But as soon as he said it, Joe's demeanor changed. And he got uncharacteristically quiet and sullen. And Joe confessed, "The reason I talk so much on Sundays is that this is the only human contact I have in my entire week. The only people I get to converse with Monday through Saturday are cashiers at the store." My friend felt a little insensitive, and he should have listened more carefully to get to know Joe better. Joe continued, "I'm afraid that if I don't just keep talking, no one will want to be with me at all." And this exchange helped my friend see his heart and informed him of better ways to help Joe. When the Apostle Paul went to Athens, it was not a very typical city, very different from Jewish culture, of course, and it was somewhat unique even among the other cities of the Roman Empire. A very, very Greek culture, philosophical people, and he began by just taking time to listen. And he wanted to better understand these people before he tried to share the gospel with them. And so he walked the streets of the city, listening and observing all the culture. And when he finally got an opportunity to speak, Acts 17, 22 and 23 reports, Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship. And that is what I'm going to proclaim to you." And so by hearing the heart of these people first, he gained a good way to speak to them about Jesus. We can do the same. We also can learn from Jesus to respond relationally and practically. So let me try to illustrate the opportunity that listening affords. Now, most people's cups are like this one. I got to be careful because it's totally full. See that? It's full of all kinds of things. Full of their own thoughts and opinions, beliefs, values, and experiences. It's full of stresses and responsibilities, beliefs and values, of conflicts and problems to resolve, relationships to navigate, work, education, family. I mean, there's all kinds of things that fills their lives. And so when we come along and we try to share the gospel with them, they're not very receptive. They don't even want to take time to listen. They don't have any room for that, you know. And so there's no capacity. Their cup's full. And it just sounds like more meaningless noise that nobody's interested in. But what if first we listen? What if we listen first? It can create space and friendship and an opportunity for that person to share. And so they share a little bit, and I spilled it, but they share a little bit. But now look, there's a little room to hear what we have to share because first we listen. Jesus first responded to the blind man relationally. He wanted the man to know that he was valued as a person by Jesus. He wanted to hear his heart and his concerns. And so Jesus connected with them, and then he also responded in a very practical way. He gave the man what he needed. He gave him sight. What did the man do? He followed Jesus and praised God. So Jesus had a new disciple and a friend forever. Now, we can't respond giving a person physical sight. We don't have that power. But we can help them see spiritually. We can befriend and give some practical assistance in life and support the person who might be suffering disease or calamity or relational issues. If if the person you're speaking to shares a burden with you, man, just stop and offer a prayer right then for them. Pray with them. If they share a need, try to address that need if you can in a very personal, practical way. If they need a friend, be the friend. If they have some deep questions, do your best to find them some answers to their questions. Michael Frost tells of a missionary team who went to India to serve the poor in a remote village. And they arrived with all kinds of materials and supplies and skilled workers to transform that village into a place of health and vitality. And they suggested, you know what, we can build you a medical clinic so that you can care for the sick. And we can build you a school to educate your children so they might work their way out of poverty. Hey, we can build you a church where you can learn about God. What do you want us to do for you? And the people humbly said, well, what we really need is a mailbox. A mailbox? A mailbox? The villagers explained that in India, not having a mailbox means you don't have a zip code. And if you don't have a zip code, you don't exist on the map, even if you have 20,000 people. That means you're ineligible for social services and other things. And so they wanted identity. They wanted to be recognized as a part of the country. So by finally listening, the missionaries learned the real need. Getting this mailbox was not a simple task. In fact, it took the missionaries 2 years to work through all the bureaucracy to get them registered with a zip code and a mailbox. But once they did, the village began to transform and thrive. Jesus asked, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? And then he listened. And he responded. I think we can learn a lot from Jesus. In fact, I think Jesus is saying today, what do you want me to do for you? And he's offering forgiveness, eternal life, abundant life with him. And so maybe you're ready to take that step today, and I'll meet you here in the front. If you want to give your life to Christ, be baptized, we'd love to do that. Let's stand and sing our song of commitment.